So here we are. The sacred shield Prince Harry and Meghan Markle vowed to guard their kids as now the very weapon shredding their polished image and sitting smug in the middle. Tom Bower, a man who doesn't just make claims, he drops nuclear bombs. The real question isn't palace rules or royal red tape anymore. It's this: who really are Archie and Lilibet? For any normal family, the thought would be insane. But for the Sussex brand machine, where every breath is monetized and manicured, it lands like dynamite. Bower's bombshell isn't a flimsy tabloid rumor. It's blunt, ruthless, and fueled by years of digging. He's saying Archie and Lilibet might not even be Harry and Meghan's biological children. That surrogacy wasn't simply a private choice, it was a buried secret. Maybe not even the full truth. Let that sink in, because this isn't about parenting quirks or paparazzi boundaries. This is about legitimacy, bloodlines, royal DNA. If there's even a shred of truth in Bower's words. This isn't just scandal, it's a wrecking ball smashing straight into the monarchy's core. Harry, once the beloved rebel prince, now looks like either a clown dragged by Meghan or a co-conspirator in a deception so personal it slices through centuries of royal tradition. Either way, he's spiraling. Word out of Montecito paints Prince Harry storming through rooms, snapping at staff glued to every headline and conspiracy thread. The same man who once waved the mental health flag is now reportedly crumbling under the pressure of his own circus. And Meghan, she's ice cold. No tears, no drama, just legal threats, locked and loaded, trying to smother the fire with silence and lawsuits. But here's the delicious irony. The more she clamps down, the hungrier the world gets. Critics are dragging up the perfectly staged bump photos, the suspicious timelines, the glaring lack of medical records or standard birth announcements. No hospital shots, no candid proof, just smoke and mirrors. Why so vague? Why so polished? Why does every detail feel like a Netflix script? And then there's the royal distance. Unlike William and Kate's kids, proudly snapped with Charles, Camilla, even the late Queen, Archie and Lilibet have been practically ghosts around senior royals. Fans whispers that coincidence or a palace-sized wall of separation. Let's not kid ourselves, this isn't idle gossip. Surrogacy was the route, fine. But if outside donors come into play, we're talking about a royal storyline that could rewrite everything. If donors were involved, if those biological ties aren't what they've sworn they are, then buckle up, because that's a royal earthquake. It shoves the children's very spot in the line of succession into doubt, and that's one thing the palace cannot afford to leave murky. Tom Bower isn't out here tossing drama for book sales. This is a man with a proven record of unearthing the monarchy's darkest skeletons, and plenty of his revelations have hit terrifyingly close to the bone. Now he's ignited what could be the most explosive truth yet, one that threatens not just Harry and Meghan's brand, but their very standing in royal history itself. And in the middle of this storm, deafening silence. The Sussexes have said nothing, no denial, no statement, no DNA test, just a blackout. But here's the thing about silence. It doesn't protect, it screams, it fans the fire. It makes the world lean closer, asking, what exactly are they hiding? Because if there was truly nothing to fear, wouldn't they have shut this down with proof already? Now, the chants for DNA testing are deafening. What began as hushed curiosity has morphed into a full-blown public demand, echoed on social feeds, tabloids, even primetime panels. Hashtags blaze, anchors debate, and the wildfire keeps spreading. The bottom line, if Harry and Meghan have nothing to hide, why are they still hiding? Then why not just take the test? From a PR standpoint, this is a full-blown train wreck. The Sussex empire was built on the glossy image of a modern fairy tale. 2 doting parents, 2 picture-perfect kids, and a sun-soaked Montecito mansion. But now, that frame is splintering, and these aren't surface cracks. They're jagged, structural, fractures too big to patch with curated photo shoots or Netflix confessionals. This isn't another royal soap opera. This is the legitimacy of their family under the knife. For Harry, the blow cuts deeper than any scandal before. Fatherhood was his redemption song. When he ditched royal duties, severed ties, and bared his soul to Oprah, he clung to the same refrain. It was all for his children. Fatherhood, he claimed, saved him, anchored him, gave him meaning. But now critics are snarling. What if those children he swears by aren't even biologically his? That's not just an image, it's an identity crisis. The boy who once walked behind Diana's coffin, symbolizing resilience, is now painted as either a clueless pawn or a willing actor in a royal-sized cover-up. Both paths end ugly. One makes him tragic, the other makes him deceitful, and the ugliest of all. He looks powerless, a man with no grip on the very story that defines him. Narrative of his own family. He's losing it. Insiders from Montecito describe a bleak scene. Harry glued to every article, rumor, and YouTube rant, obsessively dissecting his kids' photos, Meghan's pregnancy timelines, and every word of Tom Bower's allegations. He's snapping at staff, ranting through the night, barely sleeping. The fear, the anxiety, it's written all over him. And for the guy who preached mental health like gospel, the irony is brutal. The so-called therapy prince now looks like a man spiraling in his own paranoia. Meanwhile, Meghan, she's ice-cold strategy. Reports claim she's chasing every legal angle to suffocate the story before it explodes further. But here's the kicker. Every cease and desist she fires off only feeds suspicion. The louder the threats, the louder the whispers. Why go nuclear if there's nothing to hide? And the palace. Their silence cuts like glass. Not a peep from King Charles. No fresh photos with the kids. Not even the routine birthday shout-outs for Archie or Lilibet. Now line that up against the open, loving spotlight around William and Lilum, Kate's children. It's a jarring contrast. Observers are whispering. Does the palace already suspect the truth? Or worse, have they known all along? A theory is taking root now. That's gaining serious traction. The theory that the royal family's distance isn't punishment, it's protection. By keeping the kids at arm's length, they've shielded the monarchy from a scandal they always feared might detonate. And now that Tom Bower has yanked it into the spotlight, the palace seems content to sit back, waiting for Harry and Meghan to either confess or crack under the weight. It's a chilling thought that even a palace built on centuries of control and denial quietly stepped away from this one. That they sensed the truth long ago and chose distance over confrontation. And if that's real, everything shifts. Suddenly, this isn't tabloid gossip, it's a royal reckoning. Because if the monarchy itself doubts, then Archie and Lilibet's place in the royal bloodline isn't rumor, it's a crisis. Spotlight is blazing on the Sussexes now, and the curiosity stage is long gone. It's full-blown suspicion, and it's not just tabloids stirring the pot anymore. It's mainstream outlets, veteran journalists. Even lifelong royal loyalists are now daring to ask the forbidden question. Will Harry and Meghan agree to a DNA test? Sounds absurd, right? That it's come to this. But when every other door to truth has been slammed shut, what option remains? They had every chance to be upfront. That's all they had to be. Release the medical records, show real transparency, clear up the bizarre inconsistencies in timelines and photos. But they didn't. Instead, they hid behind silence or were cryptic answers and legal scare tactics. And now that silence is backfiring hard. In the court of public opinion, silence isn't classy, it's guilty. The ugliest part. The damage might already be permanent. Harry, once the face of rebellious strength, now looks like a man crumbling. Old military buddies, reportedly keeping their distance. Insiders whisper he swings between rage-filled outbursts and eerie hollow. Quiet. Those close to him say he's lost his footing not just as a royal, but as a man. Fatherhood was the last piece anchoring him. And now even that lifeline is slipping away. Meanwhile, Meghan doubles down on her deflection playbook. Lawyers are said to be firing off letters to media outlets, threatening lawsuits if the story doesn't vanish. But here's the truth. Legal threats don't solve moral implosions. If anything, they fuel the critics who've been saying it all along that the Sussex brand runs on control, not honesty. And the public, they're not fools. They remember the staged Netflix spectacles, the filtered Instagram posts, the glossy podcast bites. They remember the speeches about authenticity, truth, and breaking generational cycles. So when that same couple now ducks transparency over something as basic as their children's origins, the hypocrisy stings like a slap. And the royal family, still mute. But make no mistake, their silence roars. Not a single senior royal has dared to step forward in the Sussex's defense. No statements, no subtle nods, nothing. It's as if the entire institution has stepped back into the shadows, quietly taking notes. Whispers say King Charles has been told to keep his distance, at even a hint of support could explode in his face if the whispers prove true. Behind closed doors, there's chatter of contingency planning, hushed talks about succession, about the legal and political fallout if the Sussex children were conceived in ways that don't square with royal protocol. Would they be stripped of titles? Scrubbed from the line of succession? No one knows, and the palace sure isn't giving answers. But one thing is brutally clear. The fairy tale is in free fall. That glossy picture of a daring prince and his modern duchess carving out a brighter life beyond the palace gates, collapsing under the crushing weight of secrecy. And the more they dodge the truth, the heavier that shadow grows. In the end, it may all hinge on one defining choice. Submit to a DNA test or refuse. One path could finally muzzle the critics, claw back a shred of credibility. The other ensures a legacy of suspicion because questions about bloodlines don't fade. They linger, they rot, and they etch themselves into history. Harry and Meghan staked everything on a story of freedom and honesty. But now that story is being hijacked by silence, by doubt, and by the one question blasting louder than all the rest.